Hello. What is going on, everybody? Alex, founder of Hostage Tape, going live again. The day after the Super Bowl, I figure we're going to have to talk some football today. You can see behind me, I've got all my jerseys on the wall. So we're definitely going to have to talk about the Super Bowl, even though it's not related to the Hostage Tape. It's certainly related to my life. What's up, Jackal? So, the Super Bowl. What are my thoughts? I thought the Super Bowl was a phenomenal game. I was really excited for the game, which is funny because I other people that I know in the company and I see out there, there were a lot of like non maybe football people who weren't so excited about the game, which I suppose makes sense because there weren't a lot of big time players for either team. Like most people couldn't name that many players from either team. So I guess it makes sense that a lot of people maybe weren't too excited about the game, but I'm telling you from the football side of it, we were excited. Us football guys, the former players, this was an awesome game, an awesome Super Bowl on a whole bunch of different levels. I mean, namely because you had two new teams, I mean, relatively new teams in the game that, we haven't seen. So it's not a Chiefs Super Bowl, right? It's two new teams, and it's two great stories of two quarterbacks, two very, very polar different. No, I don't bet. I'm not a better man. Very polar different quarterbacks for this game. You've got the Sam Darnold story. I'm very close to Sam Darnold in the sense that like he was here in Minnesota, so I saw him up close and personal every weekend, and I love the story of Sam who had everything and then lost all of it. And everybody like threw the guy away, and then he got his chance last year here in Minnesota, proved everybody wrong, and then got his shot to finally get a team back in Seattle. And look what he did, right? You put a you put an amazing team around that guy, and he takes you all the way to the promised land. It was just awesome. It was awesome to see Sam do that. I think any quarterback, any former quarterback who's played knows what that's like. We've all gone through different phases in our careers of what Sam's gone through, and so it's cool to see him get that chance. And then there's Drake May, who's the young kid on the block, super talented. Everybody knows that that kid's going to be something special because he is special. And so, he's like Tom Brady 2.0, except he came out with everybody knowing that kid was going to be great. I was rooting for the Patriots. I'm a Patriots fan, even though I love Sam Darnold. I love his story. I'm not a big Seattle fan, so I was rooting for the Patriots and that story, and I was anticipating that this could be a resurrection of the Patriots into their new dynasty. Drake May getting his chance to be Tom Brady 2.0, which I still think is likely to happen. It's just too good of a franchise, too good of an ownership, too good of a coach, too good of a quarterback. Like they've got all the pieces in place to be able to do that. So the question is Seattle going to be able to repeat? Like maybe, I don't know. We'll see. So, but the game itself was a phenomenal game of two defenses going back to back and holding these offenses down. Uh, and I thought the if I had to criticize anything, I think the play calling for the Patriots was bad. And again, it could have been maybe the play calling had to be that way because maybe that was New England's identity, and McDaniel's couldn't change the offense too much, you know, based on just what got him there. Like I can understand that. Like you're not going to go into this game and all of a sudden completely change course and then Drake doesn't know how to respond. It's very possible because I would imagine that with how good of a defense Seattle was, is they literally just shut everything down and confused him. Drake looked like a deer in headlights. He was holding on to the ball way too long. It seemed like there was just way too many 5 and 7 chip drops that we they needed to get stuff out of his hands. They needed to get more of the quick game going, and they just didn't do it. And again, it didn't seem like they were calling any of it, and I don't know why. But again, that could have just been because that's just not his game. That's not their game. It's not what they do. It's possible. So, but all in all, it was an amazing game. It was awesome to see. Super happy about the game. Um, all right, so somebody had a question. We can talk hostage tape. I still might go back to the Super Bowl because we just had the biggest game of the year. Um, so we'll still probably go back and talk about it. So looks like Jacqueline, you had a question about, if you don't mind me asking, how did you come up with hostage tape, the product idea? Yeah. Okay. So hostage tape came about because I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I love building things. I love growing things, and I I had hit um, a low point in my life where I was selling the first company that I had started. I ran that company for 16 years, a software company, and I hit a low point, and I knew I needed to work on myself. And so it was this commitment of, what do I need to do to work on myself as a father, as a man, as a husband, as a partner, all those things. And I started with my health because I was snoring like a chainsaw. I snored so bad that my wife moved into the other room for years. So I looked into my sleep. How could I get better sleep? How could I stop snoring? And so it was through that exploration of how to get better sleep that I discovered this idea of mouth taping. In fact, it was from, I've got a book behind me over on the table back there of James Nestor wrote a book called Breath, to where he talked about an experiment where they go to Stanford Medical Center and they plug their nose for 10 days. And over those 10 days, they developed sleep apnea, they snored like crazy, and their blood oxygen went through the floor because they wanted to see what would happen if we only breathe through our mouth. And then after those 10 days, they unplugged their nose, they mouth taped to force nasal breathing, and everything went back to normal within like a day. So when I read that, like this light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, "Whoa, was it really that simple? Is it mouth breathing?" Because I never heard this concept before. It seemed completely foreign to me, and because being an athlete my whole life, my coaches never taught me this. You would have figured, like, okay, breathing correctly would be such an important part of competing that my coaches surely would have known this, and they surely would have taught me that. But I think I played the game of football where we're just a bunch of grunts on a field, pushing each other around and trying to hit each other. So probably didn't take the breathing part of it very seriously because we're just playing for 6 seconds, stop, 6 seconds, stop. Whereas maybe if I was in track or cross country or a sport where there's more endurance, maybe then my coaches would have known and they would have communicated that. So the whole idea of mouth breathing was was foreign to me and it was wild. And so when I mouth taped for the first time, I'll never forget it. I was in my aunt's basement and I mouth taped for the first time, and I remember thinking, am I gonna suffocate? Like, what if my nose gets stuffy? Like, it's a perfectly normal reaction that people have when you mouth tape for the first time. So I thought, okay, if I do this, what happens? But then I remembered, like, look, there's all these other guys who've done it, all these medical professionals, all these experts who talk about it. Like, I'll be fine. So I put the tape on my mouth and I go to bed. And when I woke up the next day, I couldn't believe how I felt. I felt like my teenage son. I had this jolt of energy, and it was in that moment that I knew that my life was going to be different. And so I didn't know though at the moment that I was going to start a hostage tape, but I just knew that what I had just discovered, mouth taping, completely just changed how I was thinking about how I needed to take care of myself and how I could start showing up. And so then eventually I came up with the idea of mouth tape and calling it hostage tape because I knew that like I wanted to start a second business because that's what I am. I'm an entrepreneur. So I knew I wanted to start a second business. And this time I wanted to do an e-commerce brand and I wanted to leverage Facebook ads and and that whole idea. And so I knew that attention was going to be the currency. I had to get people to stop the scroll and be interested. And I still am. I'm a huge fan of Liquid Death. And I'm like, that's it. I got to go all in on something polarizing and finding a a brand that was going to get people's attention, but also tap into the emotion of the brand. Because I didn't want to just start a product. I didn't want to just create a product that anybody can create a product and then put it on Amazon and then it's a race to the bottom of who can sell the cheapest widget. I wanted to build a brand that people could become a part of, that would create a movement that would inspire other men to change their lives too. And so then Hostage Tape was born out of the idea of yes, we do kind of look like a hostage when we have mouth tape on. Of course, that's the obvious. But the other side of it is, hey, what's up, Ash? The other side of it is, I was tapping into this core emotion people felt. People feel held hostage by poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do. So don't let bad sleep hold you hostage. That became the core idea, the core emotion that we tapped into with hostage tape. And so then it really taps into this larger idea in marketing that we call the 95-5 rule too, which is so 95% of the time people aren't in market to buy a product. That's just the reality. But then the other 5% are, okay? But then once somebody in that 95 becomes in market to buy, what do they buy? They buy the brand that they remember. And so when people are in market to finally buy mouth tape, do you think they're going to forget hostage tape? They're not. Everybody remembers hostage tape because you remember scrolling and thinking, who had the balls to call this thing hostage tape? Whoa, right? It's so polarizing and it's so out there, but it also really connects because you get it. A part of you understands, oh, hostage tape, I kind of get it. It's kind of cheeky fun. That makes sense. It kind of you kind of look like you're being held hostage. But the part of it that some people don't inherently know right away until once they discover the brand and they learn about us is that the emotional aspect to it of how people feel. People feel held hostage by poor sleep or their partner. And then that's also where hostage tape comes in. Okay. So that is a quick sort of genesis around where hostage tape came from and why we called it that. So, and then you're noticing too. I've got something on my nose here. We also do nose strips. So our second product that we ended up coming out with was a nose strip because we figured, yeah, we figured that okay, we're already in this space of nose breathing, encouraging nose breathing. And one of the biggest questions that we always get is, well, what if my nose is stuffy, or what if I have a deviated septum? So I'm like, well, nose strips already exist, right? Breathe Rights. They're kind of the OG. And being a football guy, like I totally know what Breathe Rights are. You know, back in the 90s, all the big time football players, all the NFL guys, they used to wear Breathe Rights, like Jerry Rice and Emmett Smith and all those guys. So I thought, well, okay, how about we do a nose strip then? But we'll make it look badass. We'll make it black We'll change the shape so it looks cool. So then we can help people breathe through their nose even better with when they're using their mouth tape. But then also it became this thing that people wear when they work out too. So I primarily wear our nose strips when I'm working out, going on a run at the gym. I don't particularly ever wear a nose strip. I don't like wearing my nose strip when I sleep. The only time I will wear a nose strip when I sleep is if I'm really sick or congested because I always mouth tape. There's never a time when I'm not mouth taping. I always do. Because at the end of the day, our body wants to breathe through the nose. That's how we're supposed to breathe. And when you breathe through your nose, it actually is a decongestant. It decongests your nose versus when you breathe through your mouth, it creates congestion. And so, even if I'm sick and I feel congested, well, it's because during the day I'm breathing more through my mouth, creating the congestion. So, um, but when I keep my mouth shut, then it does that. So, all right. So you said I want to start an e-commerce brand as well, but I'm curious, how did you end up finding a manufacturer? Um, yeah, you can go to Alibaba. There's plenty of places to go. Alibaba is a good place to start for sure. Yeah, absolutely. The hard thing about starting a brand is actually starting it and doing it. You can sit and think about it. You can sit and have the idea, and you can have these hopes and dreams of what you want to do. But the difficult part is the execution of it all. It's actually starting it, getting moving, and then continuing to push through all the problems, all the pushback, all of the different um, doubters. The amount of people, like when we launched Hostage Tape, the amount of people who doubted what we were doing was basically everybody. Everybody thought we were crazy launching mouth tape, let alone calling it hostage tape. They thought that was like a suicide, expedition. It's like, you're really going to name it that? Like, you should fire your marketing department, right? And so, but people thought also too that like mouth taping, and this was, when we launched, this was 4 years ago. Mouth taping really wasn't obviously what it is today. It's come a long ways since the 4 years when we first started because nobody was marketing and selling mouth tape like we were. And so we were the ones who spent a ton of money on Facebook, really got the idea out there, and then all of a sudden more and more people started to see it, started to become aware of it. It still sounded kind of crazy. Like, most people don't really understand the relationship of nose breathing versus mouth breathing and why it matters and why it's different. It seems like in this culture in the US, it's just lost on us for some reason. And so the everybody just thought it was crazy. They just thought it was the dumbest thing ever. But when you actually experience it, when you're a mouth breather and you experience mouth taping, you can't believe how stupidly simple it is and how much of a game changer it is. And so it just made sense to me that, like, this is it. I just knew in my bones that this was going to be it. It took me a while. It actually took me a while to get the courage to launch it. It's because it's not like right when I mouth tape for the first time, I didn't think I'm going to start hostage tape and build this huge brand, the biggest brand in the world. Like, I didn't think of that. Um, so I yeah, go ahead, type it in the. Tell me how you heard about us for sure. So I didn't think about like starting hostage tape right out of the gate, but then when I eventually did, I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna start a brand of tape. My initial fear was like, how am I gonna build a brand of selling tape? Like, is there enough IP around this thing? Like, is there enough protection that I can actually build something that I can protect and has scale and people are going to buy it? And that was really when I started studying Liquid Death and other brands like Native Deodorant. and understanding that the key was going to be in the brand and not just the product. You have to have a great product for sure, which we do. Nobody's got a better mount tape than us. Haas's mount tape is the best mount tape on the market, hands down. That's why we are the biggest brand in the world. We're basically the first to mass market this thing, and we have the best branding and we have the best product. But it was the brand really that building this brand, and then I knew like, okay, we got to go all in on brand, um, building brand, making this thing into something awesome. All right, so you said it's a long story, but here goes. Basically, this was 2 years ago, and I saw it on TikTok. People saying tape your mouth to sleep deeper, and then wake up energized since every time I woke up. Okay. Um, Javier said I had much better sleep, less dry mouth, and I can't say I snore a lot, but it removed any sort of snoring. Awesome. That's good to hear, Javier. I love it. And then Jackal said I felt like sleeping again, and I used duct tape. People use duct tape more often than you think. And then when I woke up, I did feel energized, but my lips started to hurt. Yeah, of course. If you're going to use duct tape, dude, duct tape's like super toxic, man. It's got a bunch of crap in it you don't want to use. You do not want to use duct tape. But obviously, it's duct tape is something we all have in the house. And so it's easy to go, I'll just try duct tape. In fact, I had a handful of NFL guys who were using duct tape. We have a pretty big NFL user base. Hostage tape is in almost every single NFL locker room. And so I've had a handful of NFL players who are like, I just use duct tape. And I'm like, here, try this, use hostage tape. It's going to feel way more comfortable. It's not toxic, doesn't use toxic glues and garbage and stuff on your mouth. And it's much safer in case you did need to breathe through it. And it's also not going to wax your beard or your facial hair off. So, but yeah, that's great. Great, great. So the let's pull up. Let me see. I've got a list of all these different topics and things that I like to talk about. I ask my AI and say, hey, come up with come up with some topics for today to talk about, and we'll see. All right, so Jackal said, once I start to make more money, I will buy like 300 pieces to wear every day. Yeah, you should, man. You should be wearing mount tape every day. Totally. Absolutely. Here's the thing. It sounds crazy, but actually wearing mount tape and getting better sleep is going to help you make more money. We sleep a third of our lives, man. Okay. If you're not getting great sleep, you're not getting great recovery. How are you supposed to take care of yourself? How are you supposed to dominate, crush it in your job, your business, whatever it is that you're doing? You can't, man. So wearing hostage tape is an investment in yourself. It's like, and with us, you buy one of our bundles, it's like ends up being around 57 cents a night. So it's not that much money. It really isn't when you're thinking about investing in your sleep. And then on top of it, it's cool and it's badass, right? You get to be a part of the hostage tape army. You get to be a part of a movement that a ton of amazing people are a part of, like some big name people too. Guys like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a probably our most well known. I mean, I've got a couple of others, but Joe's probably one of our most well known influential users. He just talked about us the other day on his podcast with Bert Kreischer, episode 2445 last week, where he talked about how he was skeptical about mouth tape at first, but he had all these experts, these health experts were telling him, hey, you should mouth tape at night. And he's like, I'm not going to mouth tape. That sounds crazy. But then he did it, and he had hostage tape, and he woke up the next day, the first time he did it, and he was like, whoa, I can't believe how amazing I feel. Like, this is crazy. And And now he mouth tapes. Him and his wife, they mouth tape with hostage tape every single night, and he's been doing it now for like a couple years. And so, you know, guys like Joe. I mean, if it's good enough for Joe Rogan, right? It's good enough for all of you guys and for anybody else. And we've got a handful of others too. Like we've got NFL MVPs. You know, guys like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a user of ours. I love Aaron Rodgers. One of the greats. Great. One of the great arms. Um, guys like we got Fortune 500 CEOs. Guys like Mark Zuckerberg. I wonder if I mention Mark. Like the app is listening. He owns the apps that we're on right now. But you know, guys like Chris Bumstead. Um, you know, one of the greatest bodybuilders of our time. Tons of people. Just, I mean, that's just a short list of some of the most well-known people. But yes, we use Shopify. If you're going to sell a product, you should 100% use Shopify to sell your product. 100%. Now, if you're selling a like an info, like a digital product, that's something you might want to use like ClickFunnels or something else for that. Yeah, soccer players, absolutely. Um, One of the greatest soccer players on the planet uses us. So, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He was talking about it on Logan Paul's podcast like a couple years ago. Um, about how he wears mouth tape, and so we sent him a bunch of mouth tape, and then he was posting about wearing Haas's tape. So, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we send a lot of product out to a lot of athletes. A lot of athletes, a lot of people slide into our DMs, and then we send stuff out, or we send stuff out to you know their agencies. Their agencies will contact us, and then we send stuff out, and then they give it to all the players. So so yeah, absolutely. I was up late watching the game. I'm a little tired. I think I ate way too much crap food too. Like I'm a sucker for when I mean I'm going to miss the NFL. I love the NFL season, man. And whenever the NFL ends, I feel like a part of me dies. I think every guy that watches the NFL probably feels that way to some point because you always have this part of you that you can watch the NFL or watch football on the weekends, and now that it's gone, it's like what do I do? You know? So a part of you is empty again. It's like when you have that favorite show that you binge watch and then you finish it and then you feel empty that you binge watch it. Now it's done, and what do you watch next? The same thing with the NFL. Now that's over, but every time I watch NFL football, I always like to binge on football food. I try to do a good job of watching what I eat. I only eat one time a day, and even when I eat, you know, I try not to like eat too. I try not to eat too much sugar. I try not to eat too much carbs. But when it's football, man, I love eating pizza. I love eating wings. I love eating chips and dip. I love eating all that kind of stuff, man. Yeah, those are my favorite football foods: pizza, wings, chips and dip. I love just traditional potato chips and French and onion dip. Oh, so good. That might be kind of a Midwestern thing, being here in Minnesota. And then chili. I love making chili. Like I make my own chili too. It's taken me years. Learning how to make a good chili is so valuable, but it's a lot harder than you think it is. It's simple in the sense that there's not a lot that goes into chili. There's very few amount of ingredients, and there's a lot of variations on the kind of chili, you know, that you can make. And I like to I like to make a really, in fact, I'll tell you what the ingredients are for my chili. It's really simple. Everybody's a little bit different on what they like to put in their chili. But for me, what goes in my chili is I take beef. I like the fattier beef. So I'll take like an 80, like an 80/20 beef or even 75/25 beef, and I'll make like a pound of it. And that's the thing too. It's depending upon how much you're making. If you make too much beef, your chili ends up turning into like beef stew. So you don't want to make too much, but I usually do a pound of fattier beef, brown it up. Then I take a beef stock. I've got a whole thing of beef stock, and that becomes the base for the chili. Not like water or not anything else. It's beef stock. Okay. So I put beef stock in there, plenty of that. Fill up the I use like a wok to make my chili. So I put all the beef stock in. So I've got enough. I like a soupier chili than a clumpier chili. So I'd rather it be soupier. So I'll put more beef stock in. Then I'll put in a small can of tomato juice, just a little can. Then I will put in either one or two cans of chili beans. And I use the chili pinto beans. I don't use kidney beans or any of that kind of stuff, but I use the pinto beans and the chili beans that have the chili flavor in them. So they're already seasoned with chili sauce. So they're the chili. I do medium, a medium chili pinto bean. I'll put one or two cans in there, depending upon, maybe how big I'm making it. And then I mix it around, and that's almost done. Then I'll take. I like there's the packet of, it's like McMenamins or whatever it is, McMahon's or I don't know, something like that. The chili mix. It's the orange packets that you see in like every grocery store. But their chili mix is the best chili mix that I like. The seasoning. So at least a packet of that and put it in, and then I have an extra thing of the oh, I forget what it's called. There's another seasoning that I'll put more of in, and it's slipping my brain right now. I can't think of it, but um, there's another seasoning that I add to it. I give it a little bit more, and then I will add more beef stock if needed, and then I stir it around, and then I let it simmer for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm not a fan of making a chili and letting it like simmer all day, an all day chili. I've never really understood that. Like, it doesn't need to take all day to make a chili unless somebody shows me and proves to me why it makes such a big difference. But I can make a chili in 20, 25 minutes and it tastes great. And it's healthy and it's all natural, whole foods, all that kind of stuff. So, so what do I eat my chili with? That's a good question. So I like to eat my chili with potato chips. I don't crumple and I don't put anything in the chili. Like some people, will crumple crackers or they'll put sour cream and like different things. But I like a clean, all natural chili, and then I use potato chips. I usually like to have the uh, cheddar sour cream chips if I have them. If I don't have them, then just regular potato chips are good too. But I like those, and I'll dip them in and then eat the chips, almost like I'm eating chips and dip, but with chips and chili. So that's what I will eat with my chili. Not much more than that. It's funny, like growing up as a kid, what my what my mom used to do. My mom used to We used to eat a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches, growing up. My dad loved grilled cheese sandwiches. And so we used to have grilled cheese and chili growing up. So we would either have like grilled cheese and chili or we'd have grilled cheese and chicken noodle soup. So yeah, so I'm real big on eating football foods like those kind of things. And it's probably good that we only have football once. I don't particularly like watching college football on Saturdays. I don't really like, especially with the direction that college football is going into with NIL and these players who are just so freaking, oh, they're entitled, right? I can't stand it. And so it's a good thing that I only had the NFL on one day of the week, because if I was eating like that every night, then man, I would not look good. I would not feel good at all. So all right, Jackal, you'd asked, what are some of the things you missed before you started your ecom journey? Nothing. I love my ecom journey, man. I love my job. I love what I do. It's hard though. It's definitely hard. But here's the thing: is nobody works harder than I do. Nobody. Nobody in ecom works as hard as I do. If people knew how much I worked and how often I worked and how much I do, you wouldn't want to be in ecom and you wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur. But that's the life of an entrepreneur. The amount of work that you do, the average person doesn't understand it. And so this illusions of grandeur of being an entrepreneur sounds great, sounds fun, but then they don't understand all the work, the grind, the daily grind every single day, and the amount of accountability and responsibility you have. Most people don't like that at all. So, all right, so you asked, I wanted to ask an ecom expert like yourself, what is the best age group that buy products online like? Well, that's a pretty broad question. I mean, it depends on what you're selling. So, it you have to figure out what you're selling and then who you want to target. Like hostage tape, for example, my target audience, my target market are 25 to 50-year-old men or the wives that buy it for the men. Okay. And so, whatever you create, whatever you start, you got to be dialed into, okay, who am I selling this to? And I would highly recommend that you, if you don't know what to sell, then pay attention to your life around you and think about what kind of problems you run into on a daily basis. What kind of problems can you solve that then you can create a product for? Those are the best things that you can sell. Selling a problem, a solution to a problem, it's way easier to market that than something that people want. Yeah, you heard people say solve a problem when going into ecom. Yeah, that's what I just said, man. Solve a problem. So look around you and observe your life. You have to be mindful though. You have to really pay attention. It's basically it's the law of attraction. And the law of attraction sounds woo-woo, but it's not. It's based on science. And so what the law of attraction states is it's kind of like, let's imagine this. Let's imagine you're in the market to buy a car. And let's say you want to buy a Jeep, okay? Or let's do a Tesla. I have Teslas. So you want a Tesla. And you go to the Tesla dealership and you look at them and you test drive them and you're like, yeah, this is what I want yet, but maybe you just for some reason didn't pull the trigger on it. And when you're driving home that day and then every day from there, what do you notice on the road? You notice Teslas everywhere. But guess what? They were always there. You just, your mind, your brain wasn't tuned in and paying attention to those Teslas. That's the law of attraction. That's basically what that is. And so how you translate that to ecom, to starting a business is you have to start opening your brain to problems around you that you want to solve, to opportunity. Because then you start seeing opportunity everywhere. What you focus on grows. Okay? So when you focus on opportunity around you, then you can find something amazing. Which is what I did with hostage tape, right? Well, I opened my mind up and discovered this crazy little thing. It sounds so stupid simple, but who would have thunk that I could take a piece of tape and turn this into an 8-figure brand in 2 years? It's pretty wild, but it solves such a big problem for people. Bad sleep, it's sleep is something we all experience, right? So that certainly makes my job easier. Is that it's a problem so many people have and so many people experience. The problem is actually getting people over the the objection that putting tape in your mouth actually works and it's not stupid. That's the objection that makes what I do hard. All right, so you said once once you think you might have found a problem, how do you end up going to find a product to solve and seeing if there's actually people who would want it? Well, research if this product is already exists. So you go out and look on Amazon, look on Google, find out if it's already out there. And if it's already out there, then that might be a good clue that, okay, this might be a good product. Because if a product doesn't exist, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a great product to make. Sometimes it might mean that there's no market for it. And that's again the borderline challenge with what I did in hostage tape was that there literally wasn't any competition out there, and it was almost like I was building and creating something that people kind of didn't really know what it was. Like mouth tape? Wait, really? So there's this whole education that has to happen with what mouth tape is and how it's going to help them. And so that's not necessarily always a great place to live in. It's much easier to live in an established product or an established area that people know, oh, yeah, I need those. I know what that is. I know what socks are. I know what a pillow is. I know what this is. So you're probably way better off going into an established market and then creating a brand, something different that stands out, or taking a product and then tweaking it, doing something different, unique to it, and then maybe niching down towards a particular subgroup of people and starting there. So your question was, does competition really matter, or you should invest? Yeah, it's what I just said. Totally. I wouldn't recommend creating a brand new product that doesn't exist. If you're just starting, would not I wouldn't recommend that. All right. Yeah. So I've been going live almost every day here, except on the weekends. And just so everybody knows, I do the TikTok lives, the TikTok shop lives, where usually every night. So I'll do it later tonight. But you're going to want to check that out or let people know. But when I do those TikTok shop lives, I do a flash sale. So if you were ever interested and you were ever curious and you're watching me and you're not a user yet and you didn't know you don't know about hostage tape or you're not totally sold, then jump on my TikTok live tonight. It's on TikTok at the hostage mouth tape. That's the username for that account. We have two. The hostage mount tape's the one that's got our TikTok live, our shop on it. But go there tonight, probably around 7, 8 o'clock Central, and I'm going to do a flash sale. So if you were skeptical and you weren't totally sold, but you kept seeing it and you were wondering, the TikTok Shop Live is the perfect time to grab one of the flash sales that I'm going to do where you can get a great deal on a 30 pack, try it out, and then we can get you hooked, right? Get you hooked on great sleep, change your life. All right, Jackal asked, what tips can you tell me about marketing a product once you start with 0 followers? You just gotta start and you gotta keep going. And you gotta make mistakes and you gotta learn. Everybody starts with 0. Hostage tape started with 0. But you can't let that discourage you. So you have to start, you have to post, and you have to learn. But that's the key is you just got to know like you're going to fail. Things aren't going to go well. They're not always going to go the way you hoped. You're going to get a lot of blowback. People aren't going to believe you. They're not going to believe in you. The only person that's going to believe in you is yourself, and that's all that matters. So you just got to post, and then you have to pay attention and learn from, especially early on. You have to learn from what's working and what isn't working, and then you have to pay attention to other other things around you. So you should be scrolling on Instagram. You should be looking at other examples. You should be looking at other people in your niche, or you should be searching up what people are asking about what you're selling, so you can see what other successful posts and reels and videos people are making. So then you can start to emulate those posts and learn how to do Facebook ads. 100%. Probably the most valuable skill that I learned that I didn't know how to do before I started the company was I said, I'm going to learn how to do Facebook ads. Don't buy followers. No. Instagram and Facebook are too smart. A lot of companies don't actually buy followers. Like real companies don't buy followers. The crappy crappy brands that try to start might buy followers, or fake people might buy followers, but don't buy followers. Yeah, absolutely learn how to do Facebook ads in the beginning. 100%. You should learn how to run Facebook ads. That's one of the most valuable skills that I've learned how to do, and I learned it right out of the gate. Learn how to do Facebook ads, learn how to run them. It's going to be your biggest lever if you can get the company off the ground and grow it and scale it. Will be Facebook ads. That's your biggest lever, 100%. Facebook ads. When I say Facebook, I mean Facebook and Instagram. Just a generic term, but it's the single biggest way that you can grow and scale your brand that you can control, and you don't have to rely on other people other than learning from other people on how to do Facebook ads. So awesome. All right. I think we're gonna call it an afternoon here. All right. You said, would you recommend doing organic ads? once you first start and then start Facebook ads, once you can see people. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think you mean organic posts. So start posting organically on all your channels so that you can start to get a feel for what stuff works, what stuff isn't work. Find your voice, find your content styles. You have to learn totally. And then as you start getting better at that and you start learning Facebook ads, then at some point you can start to take successful posts, organic posts that you make, and then start turning them into ads. But 100%. But just now understand too, though, that sometimes it is a bit of a pay to play, right? In that not everything you post is going to do like super amazingly well and translate in an ad, and vice versa. Like a viral post I make may not convert well as an ad. I've got a ton of them that just don't convert. But I might have a post that doesn't do great organically, but it does really well in an ad. So there's that. But I think more importantly, it's just you start posting organically to start to get the reps of learning how to make stuff, how to make content, how to make videos, how to make images, static ads, carousels, just all that stuff. Because if you've never done it before and you're starting from zero, you got to start. And there's no better way to start than just start organically posting stuff. And then you'll see if the algorithm starts to push you, give you reach, if people are responding, you'll start to know when, okay, I'm going in the right direction or not. So, awesome. All right, folks, again, check me out. I'm going to be on TikTok Shop live tonight doing a flash sale. And I do that pretty much every night. So if you were questionable about whether or not hostage tape was legit or whether you wanted to try it, check me out on the TikTok Lives. And we will see you guys on the flip side, folks. Appreciate it.